Welcome back again. So today we will start with the chapter of macroeconomics. You must be thinking that why I am starting with this chapter, money and banking. This is in unit 2 of your chapter. See children, this is a comparatively easier chapter. So we will finish it off quickly. So let us start with this chapter, money and banking. The first part of this chapter is money. Before we discuss anything about the money, we will discuss about the system which you are already aware of, that is the barter system. So you have heard about this barter system. What is it? This is a system in which goods are exchanged with goods. Alright, here there is no use of money. People don't use money. See, if for example, if A and B are two people in this economy, A is selling eggs and B is selling wheat, then if A will buy wheat, then B will take eggs in return of this wheat. So no money is involved in this system. Therefore, this system is called barter system. Alright. So if this system, in whichever economy this system is followed, that economy is called barter economy. This is also called CC system or the commodity to commodity. Commodity to commodity economy means where goods are exchanged for goods. Alright, so this is barter system. Now, this system was followed long back when the population was not very big. The wants of the people were limited. But as the wants started increasing, this system was not working properly. So a common unit was found out, which was needed for exchange purposes. Now, what was the limitations of this system which compelled us to find out a common medium of exchange? So, the first limitation was lack of double coincidence of bond. Now, what is double coincidence of bond? See children, in a barter system, two people are involved. As I have told you, A is selling eggs and B is selling wheat. Alright. So, double coincidence of bond is if A wants to buy wheat, so B will accept eggs in return of wheat. This is double coincidence of bond. And what if this is lacking? Now if A wants wheat but B don't want egg. Alright. So this is lack of double coincidence of bond. Means the wants of the people who are exchanging their goods, they don't match. So this is the biggest disadvantage of barter system. Now the second one is lack of measure of value. Measure of value means so many commodities were exchanged. Now, what is the value of a particular good? It is very difficult to measure that. Like for example, someone is selling wheat and someone is selling leather shoes. Alright. So, if person X wants shoes, so how much wheat he will give in return of one pair of leather shoes? So it is very difficult to measure the value of shoes with respect to wheat or any other commodity. Now I have given you an example of wheat and shoes. Imagine a jeweler selling gold jewelry. How much wheat he will accept or how much potatoes or how much rice he will accept in return of a gold jewelry? Alright, a gold necklace, or if he is selling a gold bangle, how much wheat or how much egg, how many eggs he will accept. So this is lack of measure of value. Now, lack of store of value. Like these days, we save our money, we keep our money in bank, we keep our money in our lockers, in our safes. Alright, so that we can use it at the time of need. But in this system, was it possible to store the things for future use? Like I am a producer of mangoes, so I will store the mangoes in my safe so that in winters if I need to go to a doctor, I can give the mangoes Do you think till then the mangoes will remain safe? No, not at all. So another biggest disadvantage of this system was lack of store of value. And the last but not the least, future transactions were not possible at the time of barter system. Now what is future transaction? Today 90% of the transaction in the economy goes through credit transaction. Credit transaction or future transaction, where you buy the things and you pay sometime later, right? So was it possible at the time of this barter exchange? Now you will tell a doctor, please operate my mother or any family member, and when I will grow rice, I will pay you. This was not possible with barter. No future transactions were possible. So because of all these limitations, a currency was evolved, money was found out. Okay, so after seeing the drawbacks of barter system, now a common medium of exchange was evolved, and that is called money. So now we will see what is money. Money acts as a common medium of exchange, and it has a quality of general acceptability. Alright, so it has the quality of general acceptability means what? Everyone accept it in exchange of anything. Alright, so to whomsoever you are giving money or taking something from them, they will accept the money. So it has the quality of general acceptability. Alright, now children, you have to take into consideration that whenever you are studying any topic, you will have to learn one definition of that. So there are so many definitions of money given. I think in my view, the definition given by Professor Crowther is the best, where through these functions of money you can learn the definition of money. So please go through the definition of Professor Crowther and learn that. Alright, now we will see certain functions of money. So the functions of money are divided into two: primary functions and secondary functions. Alright, primary functions are those functions. First is it acts as a medium of exchange. So as I have told you, it is a common denominator which is acting as a medium for all type of exchanges, whether you are buying goods, whether you are buying services, so it is acceptable by all. And the second one is measure of value. So it measures the value of everything, be it needle, be it precious metal. So it converts the value of every object in terms of money. Alright, and now it is easier for us to exchange. Like what was happening earlier, say if you are buying some diamond jewelry, so to buy one say ring, diamond ring, how many kgs of wheat you are going to give? So it was very difficult to measure the value of things that time, which was made easy with money. Now the value of everything is converted into money. Now the secondary functions. The first secondary function is store of value. Now money acts as a store of value. These days we can store money in our safes, in bank, and we can use it for any requirement, any mishappening which is taking place in future. Alright, and the last and the most important is standard of deferred payment. Now what is deferred? Deferred means different. When the payments are done at a different time than purchases, it is also called credit transactions. Alright, it is also called credit transactions. So when you are buying something and paying sometime later, those type of payments are called deferred payment. Alright, so money acts as a standard of deferred payment. children, you will be surprised to know that 90% of the transactions these days in every economy are credit transactions. Alright, so these are certain functions of money. Now we will see the different types of money. Alright, the first one is fiat money. Fiat money, or the coins and the currencies which are backed by the government, they are called fiat money, which are in circulation. All the coins and currencies which you are using and paying, they are called fiat money. Alright, fiduciary money is that money which is not actually backed by the government, which people use out of trust on each other, like the check. Alright, so check is something which is not actually backed by the government, but you have trust on someone, from that person you can accept the check. Alright, then the full bodied money. Full bodied money. Before explaining you about full bodied money, I will tell you something. See children, some metal is used to make the coin. Alright, so the amount which is written over this coin is called the face value. Alright, and the cost of the metal with which this coin is made is called its intrinsic value. It's called its intrinsic value. Alright, so these are the two values. So in any currency where the intrinsic value is equal to the face value, it is called full bodied money. Alright, and if in any currency the intrinsic value is less than the face value, alright, like the paper currency. See a paper note in which 500 rupees is written. Alright, so do you think the cost of this paper is also 500? No. This intrinsic value of this paper is very less than the face value. So therefore this currency is called token money. Alright, so this is full bodied and token money. Now credit money. Credit money you all know. When we do the future payments, then it is called credit money. Plastic money is something new which we have started using very recently. That is the debit cards, credit cards, or all the smart cards which we use is our plastic money. Then the limited and unlimited legal tender money. Now I will explain you what is limited and unlimited legal tender money. Legal tender means something which is backed by the government will make the money legal tender money. Alright. Now children, suppose previously we used to use 25 paise coin. Alright. Now there was a limit that using 25 paise coin you can only pay up to 5 rupees. Alright. Now beyond 5 rupees if you are paying using 25 paise coin, then the person can refuse to accept that money also. Alright, so this is called limited legal tender, where you can pay only a limited amount. Now, 1 rupee coin, 5 rupee coin, 10 rupees coin or 20 rupees note or any other currency can be used to pay any amount to any person. Alright, so that is unlimited legal tender money. So, these are the types of money which is used. Now, one very small and the last topic in this left is the supply of money. Alright, now, okay, now the last topic in this unit of money is money supply. Now, money supply is the total amount of money in the hands of people, or the liquidity of money. The liquid money in the hands of people is called money supply. Now, how we will measure money supply? Measure of money supply. How we will measure the money supply? So, there are 4 ways in which we measure the money supply. It is M1, M2, M3 and M4. Now, the M1 is the most liquid money. It is the most liquid money, or which can be easily converted into cash in hand. Like first it will be the coins or all the currency notes which are with the people, which are present in hands of people and safe of people. It is that. Then the demand deposits with commercial bank. You know what is demand deposit? Those deposits which we can withdraw using a withdrawal form or a check. So the saving account deposit or current account deposits are demand deposits, and other deposits with RBI. So who all deposits in RBI? The commercial banks deposits, the government deposits. So all these deposits with RBI, which can be easily converted into money, are also this part of M1. So M1 is the most liquid form of money supply. It comprises the coins and currency notes in the hands of people, plus the demand deposits, plus the other deposits with RBI. Now M2 is also liquid, but not as liquid as M1. Now what does M2 comprise of? M2 comprises of first M1, all these factors, plus deposits with post office. Now why deposit with post office? I am saying that it is not as liquid as the deposit with commercial bank, just because you cannot withdraw the deposits from post office using check. Alright, so now it is also liquid but not as liquid as M1. So it comprises of M1, all the these things of M1 plus deposits with post office. Alright, the next one is M3. Now M3 comprises of M1, again all these factors of M1 plus the term deposit with commercial bank. Now what are term deposit? Yes, the fixed deposits, the recurring deposits. These are called the term deposits. So M1 plus the term deposit comprises the M3 supply. Alright, and the last one is M4. M4 is M3, this M3 plus all the deposits with post office. This all the deposits with post office comprises of national saving certificates, Kisan Vikas Patra. These all are the savings which are done for a fixed period, and you cannot take these deposits from the post office before maturity. So all these deposits with post office plus this M3 will give you M4. So these are four factors of money supply. This is how we measure the money supply. And children, let me tell you, this is something which you will have to learn. You will have to learn all these four measures of money supply with their factors for your exam. In the next video, we will continue with banking. Thank you.